Well, good morning and welcome to the second day of the Social Innovation Summit. Thanks for taking your chairs when we get started. I'm Peter Hirshberg, chairman of the City Innovate Foundation, and the theme for this morning is communication. And you know, this is so central because the stories that we tell really define us as a people and our mission. They define our empathy. And particularly at a time of difficult social change, it's what moves us forward. And I think all of us in this room, both corporations and social enterprises, have a responsibility here. You know, the American people in many ways are at their best when they have a good story. You can think about Kennedy's New Frontier, Reagan's A City on a Hill, Manifest Destiny, and then we're at our worst when we don't have a good story. We get isolationist after World War I, or we become a nation of immigrants that don't much like immigrants, which seems to be kind of what's going on now, which is the reason that kind of putting a positive story together is so important. And back in the era of big mass media, you know, there were World's Fairs in 1939 and 64, and the generals showed up and told stories. General Motors talked about the automotive future, GE talked about technology. Today, with fewer giant companies and budgets and more innovation that's distributed out, it's kind of imperative for all of us to work together and create a story. The good news is, kind of occasionally losing focus of that story is a deeply American tradition. Of course, if you were to listen to the campaigns today, you would hear, we can't manufacture anything, the jobs went away, and we're just ridiculous. This started a while ago. Pilgrims came over in about 1620, and by 1630, people started saying, it's not like it used to be. The kids in today's world don't understand it. There's a great book on this called The American Jeremiah that talks about this. Here's the good news, and I want to just share kind of several things that are up right now. A number of people are working on really positive stories that are coming out next year, and I'd love to invite all of you to be part of that. I'm working on a book called The Maker City, together with Dale Doherty, who started Maker Fair and Maker Media, and the Office of Science, Technology, Policy at the White House, funded by the Kaufman Foundation. We had a White House Makers Fair a couple years ago, and we were inviting people to show new forms of manufacturing, new forms of education, kind of really bottoms-up stuff based on new technology and this theory of making. We had over 100 U.S. cities take a Maker City pledge. We're going to put in new forms of education, maker spaces. We're going to work on local manufacturing. We're going to link these people together. We had started a movement, and the question is what to do with all of them. So we're now writing the stories of these cities. What is it that Pittsburgh did when they connected maker spaces, make professionals, understood how to transform education, and now they have, in the public school system, they've combined math, shop, and computer science and have kids doing project-based stuff at a very young age, reducing dropouts and increasing test scores. And how is it that Wenatchee, Washington, which is way up in Washington, rural, where they grow apples, but they have a lot of water, and so server farms showed up there, companies that had to put their big server systems, and they realized they needed tech jobs, but their kids weren't graduating from high school. And the kids basically went and said, this is what STEM looks like. We've seen it on the internet. Make it happen here. Or you look in Brooklyn and you find at the Brooklyn Navy Yard new manufacturing coming back into New York, even fashion coming back. So there are many positive stories, and we're writing a book on it to capture these stories. The Atlantic Monthly is doing a special issue on this coming back. The Kaufman Foundation is. Brookings is coming out with the Metropolitan Manifesto. So there'll be an alignment of really good stories coming out next year. And if you're up to any of this stuff, I'd love to talk to you because we're kind of connecting these together to tell great stories. Great stories that are really kind of about our American future, the work that all of us are at work here today on.